that when you are presenting the truth and people are coming up with alternative or opposing evidences, just relax and know this is just the nature of people. People cannot live without some explanation or without some proofs, and they are coming up with alternative things upon which they base their lives, and that they use to comfort themselves, and that they use to give themselves some peace of mind in the meanwhile, but it's still not the truth. And we will soon find out how to deal with that, with those kind of people, and how to use the truth to convince them or win the argument. Now, let me give you another example before we do that. Do you remember the story of the spies? The story of the spies. And God actually sent out how many spies? How many of you remember? 12 spies. God sent out 12 spies. And God told them to go conquer the land, which means it is really possible to conquer the land. But instead of them going to conquer the land, Satan presented them with opposing evidences. Opposing evidence. And do you know what happened? Who could tell me what happened? Some of the sky. Okay, go ahead and tell us what happened.
What happened was, when they got back, 10 of the spies said that the land is full of like giants and mighty warriors, and there's no way that they can get through and become like the dominators of the land. But 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, they were the only 2 that said that they have the ability to take over the land and become the rulers of the land. And because they were the only 2 that believed that with God's help they could like overthrow all of the kingdoms in the promised land, they were the only 2 that were able to go into it. So I guess it's like, instead of seeing the popular view that is an alternative to the truth, instead of following what the crowd thinks is right, if you stay with what you know is the truth and stay on what God says, then you'll reap the rewards of your faith.
Okay, so what do you think happened in that particular situation?
Well, they were all faced with the same.
What those people, those 10 people, what happened to them?
They believed the lie that.
They believed the alternative evidence.
Yeah.
The opposing evidence. So does that explain to you now why somebody could come from a Christian home, or from a Christian country, and still fall back away from God, and begin to believe something totally opposite what is being taught, or what is the truth? Can you explain that dynamic to me, or anybody else would like to explain why that kind of thing happened on the basis of this story?
I guess in terms of this story, and also in real life, like how you were saying, people come from Christian homes and they still fall. I guess it's because even though they were brought up like to believe in God and trust Him through the trials and tribulations of life, it can seem very overwhelming when your opinion that it's going to get better is the most unpopular one. So they tend to just fall and agree with the crowd to be accepted. So, like, I've seen so many videos of like people who were like, oh, I used to be Christian, but then this happened and now I don't believe in God anymore. Or I went through this and now I know that God doesn't exist because He didn't help me through it, or whatever. So it's like, I think in terms of the story, because they saw the opposition they were faced with, they immediately doubted there was any possibility of them like having the strength to overcome it. So the alternative evidence seemed more possible for them in that sense.
Okay, so can anybody answer this question? Were there some understandable reasons why those 10 spies, because 10, that was the majority, for the majority to actually go to the opposite direction, there must be some convincing and overwhelming reasons why they did that. So while there are some overwhelming evidences or reasons or some arguments that we could actually say, yes, that is the reason why these people believed and moved to the other side. Is there any no, not really justifiable? What are the arguments? What convinced 10 out of 12? What will you people say about that? Yeah.
Well, when they came into the promised land, they felt fear because they saw some giants, and they thought we could never stand up to those. And because of the overwhelming fear that they felt, it took the place of faith in their system.
But there was a reason for the fear, right?
Yes, because they saw because Satan showed them that the Canaanites were so big physically, and they saw that, and they didn't think about how big God was. They just focused on how big the Canaanites were.
But God was invisible.
Yeah. So.
And what about the Canaanites?
They were physical.
Okay, so what does that teach us in life? Well, how would that relate to you and me?
I think that, to me, that shows that sometimes in the physical world there'll be evidences or feelings that make me feel like there'll be evidences or feelings that are contrary to God's truth, and that is what our trials and tribulations mean. That even though God is there, and even though God's laws are there, there'll be physical things and physical circumstances and physical pressure that will make me feel doubt, or that will make me feel discomfort and not strong and courageous in God.
Well, it doesn't really mean that it will make you feel like that. It's your will. You remember we spoke about the willpower. It is your will that will decide either it will convince you or it will not convince you. But the fact is that in life there will be circumstances or instances or situations when physical evidences could be much more overwhelming over the truth. That is to say, it is possible for the truth to be overwhelmed by physical evidences. That also means that it is possible that the truth will be subdued by the sheer majority or the quantity or the size of physical evidences. It also does mean that the truth could often be in the minority. So, majority does not equate to truth. What about overwhelming physical evidences? Also does not always point to the truth. So when you go to churches where people are always saying, we have many people here maybe, that doesn't always talk about the truth. Or when you go to churches where people have overwhelming signs and wonders and miracles, does that always indicate the truth? Well, if you go to my country where I come from, it is the size of the crowd or the outrageousness of the miracles that carry the day. Because people don't know that the truth is almost always subtle. The truth is almost always non-violent, not as aggressive and as violent as physical evidences are. And what people don't often know is that the truth is not always evidently visible to the physical eye as much as the physical evidences are. So it means that the giants that those spies saw were too overwhelming for them. They were too convincing evidence for them because they had the word of the Lord, but the word of the Lord was not visible. But the giants were real. So they fell for the physical evidences. So my question to you is, what is that teaching you? When you go to your school or your classroom or your college and you are the only one person who is a Christian in the class or in the school, you are in the minority. Or you have all the people in the class or in the school so lousy and so big and so noisy and so evidently stronger and more imposing, telling you that whatever you believe is rubbish. And there is nobody to stand with you, to side by you. And is that enough a reason to take their arguments as the truth? Or what is this lesson teaching you? Because yes, they came back and there were only 2 people standing, 10, majority were against them. They believed that the evidences, the alternative evidences were more convincing than the truth. But at the end of the day, we know what happened to the 10 people. They didn't enter the promised land. And the 2 people were the only ones who entered the promised land. So how is that going to help you? That's my question to you guys. How is that going to help you when you go to college or in the street or at work or in school or in your classroom? Anybody want to answer that question? How is this example going to help you to stand for your truth as against the overwhelming and the more convincing physical, material evidences of the opposing camp?
When I'm going to be in an environment where I seem alone, to be standing alone, going to be the only one who believes in Jesus Christ, and if I'm going to be told that what I believe in is a lie, and I'm going to be provided with alternative facts and evidence, I'll know that they don't know what they're talking about, whereas I do. I know what I believe in. I've believed in it my whole life, and I've confirmed it for myself, and I've gone through things that they haven't gone through. And why would they tell me about what I believe in when they don't believe in it themselves? And they're just human, and God is not human. He's so much greater than human. And God is in me, in my heart, all the time, every day, and I can talk to Him anytime and confirm His existence anytime. But also, if I feel some exceptionally weak some days, I can still contact my friends who are maybe not in the environment, but through the internet, technology, for support. But that's what I'll use to stand strong.
Okay, you have any examples of experiences like this already? Or you want to think about instances of things like this that could happen in future?
Like if I go to an unchristian college, that could happen.
Okay.
When I went to boarding school, not everybody there was a Christian, and some people who said they were Christian weren't acting Christian-like. Some of them were
That was when you went to boarding school in Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them were convincing me to try to swear because they never heard me swear before.
They never?
Heard me swear before.
Okay.
It was unusual to try to get me to swear. So those are examples.
Okay. Any other person any other person want to answer that question? How do you think this example could help you in your life? Okay. No more examples. No more examples on that. Okay. What about? Let me give you another kind of reality that makes people to also change their position of truth. Like I said, one of the reasons why people reject the truth and put pressure on you to reject the truth that you know is because of situation and circumstance. Let me give you another example when the truth is clear, but people reject the truth. That is another example is like in the case of the children of Israel as well. And with the children of Israel, You remember when they were in the wilderness? And in the wilderness, they were always having one crisis or the other. Either there was not enough food, there was not enough water, or there are some challenges in front of them, and they feel like they are going to die, really die in the wilderness. How many of you remember what some of them started saying to Moses? Yeah? You want to talk, you've not spoken? What did some of them start saying to Moses?
They were like grumbling and murmuring and saying that they wanted to go back to Egypt instead of continuing on in walking through the wilderness, because they didn't think that the situation would get any better than it was. Shall I repeat it?
Does anybody remember more concretely some of the things that they were saying to Moses? Okay, please come.
Well, whenever they went through trouble in the wilderness, first of all, they said that that Moses was evil for taking them out of Egypt and bringing them there because they were safe in Egypt and they had no problems in Egypt. But now that they had come out, all of these problems had arisen. So they start kind of deforming and distorting images of the past in their heads just because they were so upset at their current discomfort.
Yeah, what were they saying? What were some of the sentences they were saying that reminds them of what they wanted to do?
They said that we should have gone back to Egypt because we were eating until we were full there. We had all the water we had to drink, and we could just be...
What are some of the food they were mentioning?
Meat and meat until you were full, and wine and bread.
Cucumber, they didn't talk about bread. Cucumber and what's it called? Chestnut. Garlic, cucumber, garlic. We had all those things in Egypt. That's what they were saying. So what does that teach us? That teaches us that all of us have the tendency to be weak in front of challenges and weaknesses. So you have the truth, you know the truth, but alternative or opposing evidences, like how you are eating in Egypt, how you are satisfied in Egypt, how the life in Egypt was better, and how you had everything in Egypt, could be an overwhelming evidence, an overwhelming argument to want to make you reconsider the truth. So that is another reason right there, another reason that makes people to want to go back or reject the truth is because of temporary difficulties, because of challenges. Okay, for example, in my country, Nigeria, many people will tell me that the economy is bad and things are difficult in the country. Because of that, it is understandable if we compromise the truth. For example, lie, steal somebody's, be fraudulent, do a fraudulent scheme, use cunning way to make money, be dishonest, compromise principles, just because you want to make money. Why? Because there is no other way to make money. There are no money in town. There is no money in the city. So you can understand. You should understand. Now the question I have for you is are difficulties enough reason to reject the truth and look for alternative evidences? Anybody wants to talk about that? Judah, are you raising up your hand? No? Okay. Anybody want to talk about that? You again? Okay, come out. How will you argue that situation?
Well, I'll say not because, first of all, I'll say that because I think my truth comes from God, and that the truth that we should follow should come from God. That Jesus.
So our truth is not dependent on how we feel. Truth should not be dependent on your feeling, and truth should not be dependent on the situation. Truth also should not be dependent on the circumstances. Truth cannot be dependent on how you are feeling, either you are feeling bad or the thing is going to be bad for you or good for you. Truth is above you. Truth is above your feelings. Truth is above your circumstances. Truth is above your profit or your reward or your losses in this situation. Truth is always above and paramount and absolute. So because truth comes from God, even if you are going to die, you should still die on the side of truth.
Yes.
Oh, I'm hearing your arguments.
All right. Exactly. And also, if you're experiencing difficulty and you think that for that reason you should reconsider truth, that's not an option, because truth is something that can't be changed. It's absolute. But your difficulty, it's temporary. And truth and proof of that is that you're feeling uncomfortable. You're feeling like things were better. That means before in your life you weren't in that difficulty. That means your difficulty is less eternal and it's less significant than the truth. So you can't say that the truth is tainted or lowered in authority because of this temporary difficulty. It doesn't make sense. And also Jesus, he even went through difficulties in order to save our sins, and save us from our sins, in order to bring us life. Even when his flesh was weak, and even when he wanted God to take the cup away, he still went ahead and did. He still went ahead and did what he needed to do. And because we are made in the image and reflection of God, and we have to emulate Jesus Christ and God, we have no business. It's against the laws of life to ever turn back or to go against the truth in the face of difficulties.
Do we have the tendency, though, to waver in the face of trials and difficulties?
Yes. And even Jesus, before, very close to his crucifixion, had those problems.
Okay. Anybody wants to add to that? Yeah, please.
It just kind of reminded me of something you were saying earlier about willpower. Like how, yes, we do have the tendency to like sometimes doubt the truth, but that's just human nature, and we're not perfect, so we can't expect ourselves to always, like how it says in the Bible, the spirit's willing but the body is weak. So even though we may want to like constantly and always 100% believe in the truth, our flesh, because of the physical world and how our physical bodies interact with other people and different circumstances, there will be situations in which we have certain doubts. So there will always be that tendency to like doubt and want to run away from the truth. But I think we have, if we really are true believers in the truth, then we'll have the willpower to stick with it no matter what happens, because it's like you know, it's like almost you know the end from where you are, so you know it's going to get better, but you just have to go through the middle and get there. So if we, like, even though it may be difficult, if we like push forward and go through with all of our strength and everything that we've got, then it would be less of a situation that we turn and run away from it, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. If nobody wants to add to that, or is there anybody wants to add to that? If nobody wants to add to that, I'm going to read from the story of Moses, just to show us how to handle this kind of situation. When we face circumstances or situation when people present to us alternative evidences, or when they present to us opposing evidences, opposing proofs. How do we conquer that? How do we, how do we defeat the opposing evidences that are rising against the truth, that are brought against us or against our truth? So let's open the Bible to the book of Exodus, chapter 7. Paul, will you come and read to us? Okay. You have your own Bible?
I have my mobile Bible.
Okay. Read Exodus chapter 7 from verses 8 to the end.
All right. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When Pharaoh says to you, 'Perform a miracle,' then say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake.'" So Moses and Aaron went down to Pharaoh and did just as the Lord commanded. Aaron threw his staff down in front of Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a snake. Pharaoh then summoned the wise men and sorcerers, and the Egyptian magicians also did the same thing by their secret arts. Each one of them threw down his staff, and it became a snake. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Yet Pharaoh's heart became hard, and he would not listen to them, just as the Lord had said.
Okay. Before we continue to read, what are the principles that you could tell me that is applied by Aaron here and Moses that I told you 2 days ago? 2 days ago, I told you some principles about affirming the truth that is applied here. And how do you conquer and overcome opposing evidences?
What you do, one of the things that you can do is that you...
What did we see here?
They used the instruments and tools. They used what they had. They worked on they aggressively fought, but...
Okay. First of all, they were unrelenting in their efforts.
Okay.
They kept on being violent and aggressive. Okay, for example, if I did something normally, if God said, go and perform this miracle, you put this down, it become a snake, and naturally another person comes and does the same thing, naturally what happens to you? You are supposed to be demoralized. You are supposed to be, wow, I'm gone. Wow, I'm gone. I'm finished. Wow, I'm finished. That's it. That is the normal, natural response. But instead of responding like that, what did Aaron do? What did Aaron and Moses do? They were unrelenting. Am I using the right word?
Relentless.
No. They didn't back out. Unrelenting. Yeah, they didn't relent. They were unrelenting in their efforts. They intensify. You remember we spoke about intensity. They intensified their efforts. They became aggressive. They became more aggressive in their truth. They became aggressive in affirming the truth. And they also became unrelenting in their efforts. They knew that God is on their side. They knew that their truth is superior. So they were reaffirming their confidence in their truth. They were unshaken. Yesterday I spoke to you about, even when those kind of things happen, you just laugh and relax. Even if there is an overwhelming evidence that's against you, peace, your confidence is paramount. They maintain their peace. If they had not maintained their peace, they would have panicked. If not because of their confidence and their peace, they would have doubted. but because they have so much confidence in their truth, and because there is nobody and no argument that could be stronger than God's, because God is superior anyway. That itself is an enough reason for peace for you. So whenever your truth is opposed, and whenever there are even overwhelming evidences against your peace, be more violent in your truth. Against your truth, be more violent in truth, because the kingdom of God suffers violence. That statement, the kingdom of God suffers violence, means the kingdom of God is in lack of violence. Doesn't have enough violent people. Doesn't have enough aggressive people. The kingdom of God is in need of violence. The kingdom of God needs more forceful people. So what you do is to be more forceful in your belief in your truth. What you need to do is to be more forceful in your faith in your truth. What you need to do is to relax and be incessant in your truth. Be persistent with your truth, and be relentless in your truth, and also be put intensity to your truth. Be persistent with your truth, but not in the physical evidences only. But first of all, you've got to connect that your truth to the source of that truth, where that truth is coming from, and that's where you get the peace from. So the thing that happened with Aaron and his sword swallowing the snake, his snake swallowing the snake of the magicians and the wizards and things, is because it's not because he kept on dropping the snake, the rod. It is because he reconnected in his mind to his source of truth. He saw himself resting in God and being reassured. He reassured himself in the source of his confidence. So whenever you are speaking your truth, don't ever just let your faith be based only on your arguments. Don't ever rely, unlike them, only on the physical power that you have, or only on the physical argument that you have and manifestation. Because besides the physical manifestation of your truth, there is somebody standing behind and backing your truth for you. So you must always connect your heart and your spirit to him. Seek in your mind, in your thought, in your heart. A quick prayer, a quick imagination of you before his presence, a quick reassurance of your confidence in him, a quick exchange of thoughts with God, a quick, imagination, a quick moment of imagination, imagining yourself before him or beside him, a quick, refreshing of his promises that I will never leave you nor forsake you. A quick remembrance of his assurance to you that I'm here with you. Even a quick remembrance of your shadow, that just as your shadow will always be here, he's always here as well. It's just here beside me and with me. So you connect, the connection with heaven and the connection with the Father is even greater than the evidence that you produce. That is where your confidence comes from. And it is when that your contact is intact, when that your relationship is fresh, when that your confidence is based on his abiding presence with you, that is where your overwhelming confidence comes from. That's where your faith in the truth comes from. And it is that your faith and freshness in the truth and faith in him, in the author of that truth, that now produces the evidence, the overwhelming evidence that no force of the enemy will be able to withstand. So don't just be focused on the physical evidence that you have. Sometimes when we are smart, or when we have the proofs and the arguments, we only use the arguments as our defense. We only use the proof and the facts to speak for us. But that is not enough. you always need to be aware that there is somebody standing behind your truth. There is somebody standing behind you, behind your belief, behind your facts that you have, behind your evidences. So that is exactly what you will use to overcome and overthrow all the other evidences when people come against you, either with opposing evidence, or they come with other explanations, with alternative explanations. So let's keep on reading from verse 14, Exodus chapter 7, from verse 14.
Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is unyielding. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he goes out to the river. Confront him on the bank of the Nile. Take in your hand the staff that was changed into a snake. Then say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to say to you, Let my people go, so that they may worship me in the wilderness. But until now you have not listened. This is what the Lord says. But by this you will know that I am the Lord. With the staff that is in my hand I will strike the water of the Nile. It will be changed into blood. The fish in the Nile will die. The river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink its water.
Keep on reading.
The Lord said to Moses, Tell Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the streams and canals, over the ponds and all the reservoirs, and they will turn to blood. Blood will be everywhere in Egypt, even in the vessels of wood and stone. Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded. He raised his staff in the presence of Pharaoh and his officials and struck the water of the Nile, and all the water was changed into blood. The fish in the Nile died. The river smelled so bad that the Egyptians could not drink its water. Blood was everywhere in Egypt. But the Egyptians and magicians did the same things by their secret arts, and Pharaoh's heart became hard. He would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. Instead, he turned and went into his palace, and did not even take this to heart. All the Egyptians dug along the Nile to get drinking water, because they could not drink the water of the river.
Okay. Before I address this situation here, what's your name again? Imisi. Now, Imisi, you are the exact, and other people here, you are the exact example of Imisi here. Here, look here. Because of the bee flying, Imisi is no more listening to what we are doing here. Imisi, you are not listening to the teaching because you are more afraid of the bee. Yeah? You are more afraid of the bee. So anything that was happening here was no more concerning you. Why? Because you lost focus of the truth. The truth is that there are elderly people here who will take care of it. The truth is that if it does not hurt anyone, it will not hurt you. The truth is that you don't have, you are safe because everybody else is safe. But you are more. That is what happens in life. You are more distracted by the alternative evidence, the fear. That's what Satan wants. Satan always wants you to fear. And Satan wants you to look more at the fear, at the evidence, the alternative evidence, than on the truth. So learn to focus on the good side than the bad side. Okay? It's okay. Okay. So what did we see here? What we saw here is that Satan also kept on doing the bad things. But now, all of you now, the lesson is for you, not for Imisi anymore. Because the same thing is happening now. You are also supposed to be listening to me rather than to Imisi that is crying. That is not the truth. That is the distraction. The truth is here. So you need to focus here. Okay? Sydney, here. Yeah, you need to focus here. So the truth is that even though the wizards and the witches and the magicians kept on doing the miracles and repeating the same miracles that Moses and Aaron did, Aaron and Egypt were not faced. I mean, Aaron and Moses were not faced. And the evidence that they were not faced is because they maintained their peace. Because they could maintain their peace because they had their confidence in God. Their confidence was still in God. They kept their peace, and that is a sign of faith. When you are able to maintain your peace, it means you have faith. You have faith in somebody that is more than everything that is happening in the physical realm. So when things are rough and things look to be against you in the physical realm, reconnect with God. It takes very fast. It is very fast for you to reconnect to God. Just a second, less than a second. God is ever present here. Just turn your thoughts to Him. Switch your mind to Him. And put yourself under His cover. Once you have done that, put your confidence in Him, then they could walk out. They actually went out from there. You need that? Are you okay? They went out from there. And because they went out from there, you know what happened? God struck. You know, without their presence, they didn't need to be there anymore. And God struck. God spoke for them. Even though they had left the stage, but the God that they had confidence in, and because their confidence was still in God, God cleared the situation, spoke on their behalf, even when they had gone, but they maintained their peace and they maintained their faith, and that their faith made God to work for them. So that's an example of how you all are supposed to behave when you face situations and circumstances when you are in the minority, or when there are overwhelming evidences against you, against your truth, or when there are, when you don't have arguments anymore. You know what to do. You are, first of all, connecting to God, who is your source, who has sent you, and from there you act, and you are more persistent, you are more aggressive, you are more consistent with what you are doing, you are more persistent in affirming the truth, okay. Let me give you some more examples of this lesson that we are learning. Yeah. Let's look from the example of Jesus. In John chapter 8, verse 31 to 38. John chapter 8, verse 31 to 38. Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed him, "If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." They answered him, "We are Abraham's descendants." You see, they answered him, they are bringing alternative evidence right there. They are bringing opposing proof, opposing evidence. You are nothing. Your truth is nothing. We don't respect your truth. Because we have an alternative proof. We have an opposing evidence. We are Abraham's descendants and have never been in bondage to anyone. How can you say you be made free? Jesus answered and said, "Most assuredly I say to you, whoever commits sin is a slave of sin. And a slave does not abide in the house forever, but a son abides forever." Therefore, you see, Jesus is using the same principle. He keeps on being persistent. He keeps on being aggressive. He keeps on affirming the truth. He keeps on establishing, consistent with the truth and his position of, he's being aggressive with them. He's being violent with truth. You remember when we spoke about violent love? Aggressive love, aggressive truth, aggressive peace. These are the principles here. Aggressive truth is establishing and proclaiming the truth aggressively. And the slave does not abide in the house forever, but the son abides forever. Therefore, if the son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. I know that you are Abraham's descendants, but you seek to kill me, because my word has no place in you. I speak what I have seen with my Father. You see, he is not backing out. He is, and also, you see what I said, his confidence is in the Father. I do what I see my Father do. I speak what I've seen with my Father. You see, he's connecting himself back to the source of truth. That is his source of confidence. He's not relying on his words. His source of confidence is not his proof, his facts, his arguments, but he's connecting back to the source, to the Father that sends him. So, I speak what I have seen with my Father, and you do what you have seen with your Father. So, that is how the victory will come to you. Amen. Always get back and connect yourself back with the Father in your heart. While you are presenting the evidence and the truth, but in your spirit, in your mind, in your heart, behind your back, you are connecting with God. Let me give you another evidence. John 5:43. John 5:43. He says, I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. You see, Jesus knows, he is the truth. He has come with the truth, but Jesus knows that people will always try to come with opposing or alternative evidence or opposing proofs and opposing facts. So he said, be ready for this. Don't let this surprise you. When you come with the truth, somebody will come. He said, another one will come with his own name, with his own truth, and that you will receive. So he's warning them, if you don't receive the truth that I bring to you now, somebody else will come with the fake truth, with the alternative truth, with alternative evidences, and because you have rejected the original, you will be compelled to receive the false and the deception. First John chapter 2, verse 7 to 8. The first gospel of John, not gospel, the first epistle of John, chapter 2, 7 to 8. It says, Brethren, I write no new commandment to you, but an old commandment which you have had from the beginning. The old commandment is the word which you heard from the beginning. So we don't change our position on the truth. We don't play games with the truth. We don't begin to change our mind, because that is what the 10 spies did. They tried to change their truth to match with the circumstances on the ground. But see what John is saying here. No, we are not giving you a new commandment. No, we don't have a new truth. It's still the same old religion. It is the old commandment which you heard from the beginning. The old commandment is the word which you heard from the beginning. Again, a new commandment I write to you, which thing is true in him and in you, because the darkness is passing away and the true light is already shining. So we're not going to change our position on the truth. We're going to abide by the truth. So that it's being consistent here. It's been consistent. It's been constant. It's been, it's been aggressive. It's been constant. It's showing persistence, character, perseverance. It's persevering with the truth. And that's what we need to do when we are faced with situations like that. Okay, let me hear a few words from what you have learned from today. I want to hear your thoughts about what you have learned from this passage and from this message today about contrary truth or contrary proofs, contrary evidence to your truth, or opposing evidence to your truth. Okay, Judah, you want to talk? What are the lessons you've learned from this class today?
People may
Speak a bit louder.
People may come up with may use authority, may use that
physical evidence, proofs.
The authority to make sure that your truth is not heard.
Yeah.
and that we should stand by our truth, even though they kind of have their evidence is not real.
Do you have any example, or can you tell me how we stand for our own truth?
Do you mean give evidence? Or
Yeah.
like there was this is an example. There was this like film of how people were being prosecuted because they said God's name in a school, and they started saying how other religions we don't want you to be talking about it, but then the other religions are talking about their own religion, and nobody had a problem with it. But when the Christians started talking, everyone started to have a problem with it. And then there was this one girl who brought that up and was saying why the difference. She pointed that out, and then
I'm here. You are safe. You are safe. That is the evidence right there. The evidence, physical, practical test for you. That's a test for you right there. Okay, go ahead. You are scared also, huh?
yeah.
Don't worry. It's okay. You are safe. It's not coming back. Don't worry.
I forgot what I was saying.
Oh, you forgot what
She brought up the Christians. So when Christians brought it up, they got a problem with what other religions are talking about. Their religions, there was no problem. And when brought it up.
Okay, don't worry. You tried. Give me 5. Let me give you. You tried. Okay, anybody wants to help him? Okay, let Joy come and help you.
What I learned was that people fear what they can see, but they don't fear what they can't see. Like the devil uses physical things to scare people.
Excellent.
So you shouldn't fall for the devil's tricks. I think you should help ask God for help, to identify whether it is a trick from the devil or something else. Or I think God should you should ask God for help so that you know which one's right and which one's wrong, because without God you're nothing. And yeah,
that's so good, because you remember this situation with the 10 spies. They were afraid and they changed their mind about the truth because of the physical things they saw. They saw the giants, and they saw the fact that they were stronger in the physical than the children of Israel. But you're right, because the children of Israel had God on their side. Even though God was not physical, He was not visible, so they were supposed to believe in God more, because that is their truth. And their truth is actually bigger than the army that they saw of the enemy. But because physical things kind of scare people more, and they believed more in the physical things, they fell for it instead of standing on the invisible evidence of God that is on their side. So beautiful. Thank you. Yes? Yeah, you come here first. Oh, okay.
Well, the main thing that I derived from this message is that physical circumstances, they aren't as important as they feel to us to be. And since we're humans, and when we first come, everything we experience is physical, and just because the flesh experience everything physically, that's hard for us to understand, because we feel pain more physically, and just the physical realm is a big deal for any human. But now I understand that everything physical is also ephemeral, and it won't last forever, and that behind everything physical there is something invisible. Even if you have a truth and there's so much physical pressure on it, the reason that there's so much physical pressure on it is because that's Satan trying to fight the absoluteness of the truth with all that physical power. So I think that it's going to be really hard sometimes to stand and not waver in the face of physical pressure. But we also have this tool. We can reconnect with God, and I'm glad that you just even clarified that it could just be a quick prayer, because I don't think that God is something that is always far away, or always like sometimes available and sometimes unavailable. I think that if we're living for truth, then God is our source. Then God is what we're living for, and we have every right to enlist God's help whenever we need it, because we're serving Him and we're fulfilling His purpose on earth. So when we're fulfilling His purpose on earth, and because of that the world is pushing down on us and pushing down on us and pushing down on us, even though it's hard not to focus on the physical, still we have God. We can do anything that we need to renew our confidence in Him, and that will keep us. When we are always coming to God, not being anxious as our first instinct, not looking at physical things as our first instinct, but coming to God, thanking Him, praying Him, asking Him for His strength, then His peace will become a presence in us, and then we'll continue to keep going and doing what we're supposed to do. And I think that's just a process we'll all have to go through, and something we'll all have to learn to do. So I'm very happy for this practical help, and I'm very glad for these practical examples. We need to know that just because something is true, that doesn't mean it's going to be accepted. Jesus told us that, but our truth, it doesn't vary according to whether or not people accept it or not. It was here before we were there, because in the beginning was the Word, and our truth is still the Word, and it will be there after us. So while we're here, we just have to stand strong in the Word, and we have to connect to our source. And yeah, I also found God revelation that our truth isn't just sustained by physical facts. So even when we're not being pressured physically, we shouldn't just believe in God because of the physical proof that we have. We should feel that God is our source, and we should feel assured in God. We shouldn't just look at the reflections of God that we have. We shouldn't just look at the physical things and see, God gave me these things, then of course I believe in God, of course I love God. We should just know that God is God, and always find our reassurance in Him only, even when everything else seems hectic.
So can you easily connect that with why Jesus would normally refuse to bring out physical miracles and evidence when people demand of Him, when they put pressure on Him that if you are the Son of God, you should do some miracles? And normally when they are asking Him to do that, that's exactly when He will not do it. He will, shy away from that and say, no, God is still God. Either I do the miracle, I don't do the miracle. Mm-hmm. Or when He was being asked to turn the stone to bread, and He knew that is not what affirms God. Those are not the things that they don't affirm truth. That if the truth still remains the truth, even if it doesn't do that. So it doesn't need, when you know the truth, the power of the truth, and you have your confidence in truth, physical manifestations and evidences, they don't always affirm that truth. the truth that you have should be superior to anything physical. So sometimes the physical evidences could be overwhelming on the side of the opponent. You know, like with the spies and with the pressure of lack of food and on the Israelites, and the physical pressure was much more stronger, much more overwhelming than the truth of God's presence that was not even visible at all. And that's the same reason why they came up with the golden calf, because the physical need of the present need of today, they were much more overwhelming to them than the God that they couldn't see. But really, the truth is they didn't need to put any calf up to prove the presence of God there. God's presence was actually as real, if not more real, than the calf they were going to put up. So those are all lessons that God is trying to teach us, that our truth does not have to be in the physical, material manifestation like, the world will always like to see. Because we don't walk in the flesh by what we see, but we walk in the spirit by what we don't see. So God is in the spirit, and like you said something when you were answering right now, that even a quick prayer would do. But I would like to correct that and say maybe you didn't get it. It doesn't have to be prayer at all. It could only be just a reconnection. It's just like right now. Can you right now switch on and think of where mom is?
Yeah.
Can you just connect with that as quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Just the same way you could connect with mom is at home, or mom is in the room, and you could see the picture of mom, or you could see the picture of her room. That is quick connection. That is already as strong as any prayer. The same we should be doing with God. So whenever you are in any situation, any moment, any day, any moment, you should always practice the presence of God like that. As quick as that. He's here with you. And you don't always have to think God is over there in heaven. He's not. He's here now with you. So that's why just the awareness is already prayer. That awareness is as strong as any prayer. Okay. That connection, Yes. Yeah, so the most important thing you should learn to do is to always connect with him like that. So that way, when you are walking in the street, you are with him. When you are eating, you are with him. Because it said in that day, you will know that I am in you and you are in me. So he's both in you and both overwhelming you. You are in him. So anytime, just connect with that. Anytime, just exchange some thoughts, some memories, some touch. It's all about contact. Just like you have electricity, it makes contact. That contact is the power with God. Always maintain that contact with him. That overwhelming presence of his. That is your assurance. And the more you maintain that constant contact with him, relationship, and of his presence, it's called practicing the presence of God. The more you practice his presence like that, the more you will realize another thing, bro. You will realize soon that the physical evidences lose their grip on you. They are not overwhelming to you anymore, because you have practiced his presence so often and so regularly on daily basis that you don't notice any longer the things you see physically. They are no more authority to you. They are no more controlling to you. You don't even pay. For me, for example, the presence of God like that, the overwhelming awareness of God's presence, for me, is much more real, and you can tell that it's much more real than you, my children. You know that. You know by looking at me every day, you live with me. So you will discover that overwhelming presence of being with God, with me 24 hours, is much more real than my church, my success, my friends, people around me. You could get to that point whereby the presence, the overwhelming presence of God will be much more real than your wife, your husband, than your children, than anything in the world. Talk less of people's attacks or overwhelming evidence of the opposition. That is just ignored. But you are so affirmed and so established in his presence and in the truth of God with you that nothing sways you. I don't know if you got it.
Yes. And I think that's a great lesson. I think that, like, I think that, yes, the physical realm isn't all that big because God is the source. Of course, it's very good to have water, for example. Like, if we have water right now, that's very good. But if there was no source, then where would that water be? It wouldn't be either. So everything we have in the physical realm, it's just a small part of what we have in God. Because God is the source of everything. And it says in the Bible that every good and perfect gift is from above. And, God is everywhere. It doesn't have to be from above. But the point is that God is above everything. And that, so we should, I want to get to the point where, because God is so much above everything, and because I am so aware of God's presence, and I know that it's God before me, God beside me, God within me, God in the hearts of every man who thinks of me, I don't need to worry about what's physical at all, because it's just so small compared to God. Maybe it's easier if you imagine yourself in God's presence, like, that God would be so vast and on his throne, and just like nothing can compare to him. But it's the same exact thing here. If God was sitting here, then we wouldn't be looking at anything else. We wouldn't be looking at each other. We wouldn't care. We wouldn't care even if there was like some shootings going on outside. Just because God would be here, he'd be here, and that would be the only thing that matters. And that's how we have to live our day-to-day life. And of course, I never even realized that, even though Jesus does say that, and that's why he told us about the day and hour nobody knows, so that we can always be living as if Jesus is already here. It's still a very big and shocking revelation, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, every minute, every second. Every minute, every second. Okay. I see that the kids are very concerned about the flying bees and insects. And, okay, anybody want to add to what we've said so far? Oh, you are done. Okay. Jeanette, yeah? Jeanette? Yeah. Okay.
I just quickly want to go back to when we were talking about the spies that went to Canaan. I went back while you were speaking quickly to Numbers, and then I read how the one of the 10 who doubted said that nevertheless, even though there was milk, there was honey, the land was flowing with fruit, etc., that he said, nevertheless, the people who dwell in the land are strong. And then he talked about how they were not as strong as the people who were there. And then, like, I reflected on what you had said about we have to almost like throw yourself in God and be surrounded by his overwhelming presence. Yeah. Don't look at your strength and think that you're not as strong. It's not about your strength, it's about the strength of God, which is so much greater than man. Say nothing can harm you. We
all need that confidence. It should be an ever abiding presence and awareness, constant awareness. And that is what personal relationship with God is based on. Personal relationship should be based on that awareness, constant awareness, of practicing, the act of practicing his presence. If you want to know more about this, I spoke about this on my series on prayers that's called the Prayer Series. If you go to YouTube, Sunday Adelaja Official, the homepage, you can look through the series. One of them is called the Prayer Series. And in that Prayer Series, I spoke about practicing the presence of God. And also in the Kingdom Series. So those two series will help you and will bring more awareness of the presence of God to you than, so that you'll know more of that, every day, on daily basis, on every minute of your day, than on any other reality that is trying to impose itself upon you. So the awareness and the presence of God should always be superior to any other awareness that is trying to, put you under his control and command. Well, kids, I guess I will be with you two times or more tomorrow. I don't know. But at least I will be with you tomorrow in the day, in the morning, and in the evening for sure. So we'll be back. See you tomorrow. Who is in charge? Thank you. Thank you. Now go practice it. Go practice it. Thank you. Да, пускаем. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello. Yeah. Well, hello on Facebook. Welcome, Facebook audience. Let's welcome them. Let's clap for them. Well, hello on Facebook. Welcome, Facebook audience. Yes, so we are continuing our series on the truth. Why do people reject the truth? Why is it that people reject the truth? So we're going to continue our classes. And the kids, today we are talking about why people reject the truth. And the reason why people reject the truth that we're going to be discussing today is because they do not understand the truth that you are presenting to them, or the evidence or the proof that you are using to present the truth to them. So in either of the situation, people often reject the truth because they do not understand. And that is understandable. It's not always easy to understand what is told to us for the first time, from the first time. So we could as well anticipate that there will be times when you as Christians or you as young people will present the truth about anything. You will talk to people about the truth and you know it is the truth. And you are surprised. Why can they reject it? Why are people rejecting this? And the only reason why they are rejecting it is because that truth you are presenting to them, or the way you are presenting it to them, or the proofs that you are using to argument your case, to argue your case to them, might not be convincing enough for them. So people will likely reject it, not because what you are saying is not true, not because the truth is not the truth, but mainly because they do not understand. Now, I've given you many reasons why people reject the truth. This is another reason. People reject the truth because they don't understand, So what do we need to do in order for people to understand? In the case of Jesus, let me see a passage. How many of you remember the parable of the sower? The parable, when Jesus was talking the parable of the sower, that the sower went to sow, and some fell on good soil, some on bad soil, some on, you remember? Come tell us about the parable. Joy is ready as usual. She's going to tell us about the parable. We have microphone? Microphone.
So the farmer was planting one day, and then there was this seed. So like this seed is the word of God, and the like ground it went on is the hearts of men. So like the seed, like the farmer was planting one day, and then one a seed went on the, good soil. One went on thorns. One went on thorns. Another one went on the pavement side, and the fourth one went on rocky.
Where?
Went on rocky roads.
Rocky, yeah.
And so.
And then the good ground.
Yeah. And so it was explaining how like Jesus was explaining how the hearts of men and like the word of God. So but the rocky soil is really bad. The good soil is like that you let the word of God into your heart and you let it grow.
What a miracle child. How do you know all these things?
Because in my school.
It's like you remember everything anybody tells you. You don't forget stuff?
Not really.
Not really. Very good. Good job. Good job. Okay, who wants to compliment that story that Joy just told us, please?
I'd like to explain the story.
Yeah, please.
So basically what happened is the farmer was planting
Can you speak louder a little bit?
What happened was the farmer was planting seeds,
Yes.
and what happened is some of them fell on the rocky road, some of them fell on the good soil, and some of them fell on the thorns. The ones that fell on the good soil are the ones that heard the word and applied it to their lives, and the ones that fell on the rocky soil is the ones that heard the word and they let it come out through the other ear, and they didn't do anything about it. The seeds that fell on the thorns is the people that didn't hear the word or receive it.
Very good. So you know the meaning as well, huh? Okay. But there is another detail I want to talk about this parable. After Jesus finished telling the story about the parable, his disciples called him together and they came to him and told him that, will you explain the parable to us? Like, we don't understand this parable. And so to which Jesus answered and said, and he said to them, do you not understand this parable? How then will you understand all parables? Now, in that one verse, Jesus used one word twice. In one sentence, Jesus used one word twice. Who noticed? What was that word?
Parable.
Parable. No, he used parable twice. Really? There's another word he used twice in that word. Okay? In that sentence.
Understand.
Understand. He used the word understand twice. He said, do you mean you don't understand this parable? If you do not understand this parable, how will you, maybe it's actually 2 or 3 times, how will you understand other parables? So parables also is 2 times. Yeah, you're right. But The word I'm talking about is the word understand. If you don't understand this parable now, how will you understand other parables? So the word is understand. Why is Jesus particular about understanding? Jesus is so particular about understanding. The only thing he's concerned about is one word: understand. Understanding. He's only particular about that. These people need to understand what is happening. Why is Jesus very concerned about people understanding like this? And in other places, Jesus will come to them and say that you of little faith, don't you understand? I've been with you all this while. Why can't you understand? Jesus is always talking about understanding. In some other cases, he will tell them something like, he that has ear, let him hear what the Spirit of God is saying. He will say things like, verily, verily, I say unto you. Then, tell them the parable. Why is he emphasizing? Jesus is always emphasizing ears, eyes, and understanding. Those are very important components, very important words, because they are very important because Jesus knows that there is nothing more important than understanding when it comes to teaching. Understanding is the most important element of teaching. So that's what I'm saying as well, that when you are trying to communicate to people any truth, understanding is the key to communicate truth to people. So whenever you are talking to anybody about truth, don't rush to go talk to people about truth until you work on yourself, on your communication style, and on your communication skills. You need to first of all listen to yourself many, many times to make sure that you make it easy. So for example, whenever you want to communicate any truth or publicly to anybody, sit down in your solitude, repeat that truth to yourself the first time. Maybe you like it. But go back, think about it again and say, how can I make it even better or even easier for people to understand? Once you have come out with easier method, you've added one or two other truths, then repeat it to yourself again with those additional helps that you have added. Once you have done that, think about, is there any way I could still make this even better? Maybe you want to add stories now. Maybe you want to add quotations. Maybe you want to add illustrations. Maybe you want to add statistics. Maybe you want to add figures. Maybe you want to add references. Maybe you want to add inferences. Then repeat it to yourself again with those other helps. Then choose the one of them that is easiest for you to understand and for others to understand. Before you now know that your sermon or your truth or your word that you want to communicate is ready. It has to be ready, and you have to repeat it to yourself many, many times, so that by the time you go out to talk to anybody about it, you are not forgetting anything, and you are having the best variant, the best version, and the most perfect variation of your truth. So when people don't understand the truth that you are communicating to them, it is not always their fault. That is the point I'm trying to make. It is not always the fault of the people that are listening to you. Because if they don't understand what your truth, they will reject your truth. And the reason they will reject your truth is because they do not understand. And if they do not understand, they are not the only ones to blame for it. Sometimes you are to blame for it. Because when they do not understand, it's not their fault. When they don't understand like that, it means that you did not do your job well as well. You didn't do a good job. So, in order for you not to be guilty of them not understanding, in order for you not to be blamed for their lack of understanding, what do? You make sure that you work on yourself and you rehearse the truth that you want to communicate to people the best possible way, to yourself, in your closest, by yourself, and when you are most satisfied, then you go out and talk to people. Maybe you will even like to repeat it until you could repeat it to them and talk to them offhand without reading it and just from memory. But the idea is not to just be able to talk from memory, but the idea is to be able to talk in a way that anybody will understand. Have you ever noticed some people that when they talk, they speak so many big grammar and so many big vocabulary that at the end of the day, you just look at them and say, wow, he's so smart. By the time it's finished, you look at them and shake your head and say, I will never be able to be like this. Well, that is a bad communicator right there. Because he has been the only one that has gotten the credit, but you didn't understand anything. But if he's a good communicator, even the simplest person there will understand. Or the smallest child there will understand. Even if you are the smallest person there, you should understand what the person is talking about. But if you don't understand, it's not a good communication. So good communication is, don't worry about it, don't worry. So that you will not be the one to cry today. No danger, doesn't hurt. So the good communicator is the one that is able to communicate that everybody at the end of the day says, wow, it is so clear that even a child will understand. That is good communication. Don't ever be under the pressure of trying to impress with your knowledge. When you begin to try to impress with your knowledge, you could do a good job with that. People will clap for you and say, wow, he's so smart. But at the end of the day, they go out and they don't remember anything. So don't try to impress people. Also, don't come to talk to people trying to speak to them all the big grammars that you just learned the last time you studied. Don't try to come out speaking big grammar. Even if you happen to speak big grammar, break it down until everybody understands. So, understanding is key. The goal of your talking to people is for them to understand. So how do you know they understand? People understand when they can implement what you have taught them. The purpose of understanding is to implement, is to perform, is to do what you have taught them. So if the people are saying they understand and they are only able to repeat, then they didn't understand. People only understand when they are able to do as well. So that's why Jesus is very particular about understanding. Now, so Jesus decided to break that parable down to his disciple. And you will see a big difference. If you read that parable, you will see the way Jesus brought understanding to his disciples. So let's read it. In Mark chapter 4, verses 13 downward. And he said to them, do you not understand this parable? How then will you understand all the parables? So, of course, he was surprised that they didn't understand. So what did he do? Did he just get annoyed and turn his back and left? No. When people don't understand, it means it's not just their fault. it's my responsibility to do a better job. So instead of Jesus just turning and saying, you are too dull, I'm leaving, he knew what to do and he did better. And what he did is he started all over again. Now that he started, he was not just telling them the parable, he was explaining every point and every part of the parable. So he says, the sower sows the word. Before he had said the sower went to sow the seed. But now he explained to them that the seed is the word. So he's giving them exact meaning of everything he meant. So that is to bring understanding. So now they know, okay, I don't have to be a farmer. Each time I hear the word, it's the same thing. It could either be in good soil, bad soil, and all that. So he keeps on saying, and these are the ones by the wayside where the word is sown. So the seed that falls by the wayside, he said, when they hear, Satan comes immediately and takes away the word that was sown in their hearts. Wayside. What is wayside? Wayside means on the way. It did not get to destination. Wayside is talking about, when you are going somewhere, the way is for you to take you to your destination. The purpose of a road is destination. But if the thing stops at the roadside, where is the purpose? Where is the destination? It means it didn't get to destination. And Jesus explains to us here, why is it that a seed will fall by the roadside? He said it's because Satan comes immediately and takes away the word that was so in their heart. Each time you forget a message or a word or a truth that is given to you and you don't even remember it, you don't remember to meditate upon it, that is roadside. It means Satan is after. Satan is to blame. Satan is after that word and he has just stolen it away from you. So roadside is the word that does not get to the destination. The destination is that it has to get to your heart. It has to get to your mind where you are going to process it, think about it until it gets to your heart. And from your heart, it's become your understanding. And from there, you could begin to practice it. But when you don't even remember anymore, that means that word has fallen by the roadside. So, next one, it says, this likewise, that's the second seed. It said, this likewise are the ones sown on the stony ground. That is the second seed. They fall on the stony ground. When they hear the word, immediately receive it with gladness. So they receive it with gladness initially, and they have no root in themselves, and so endure only for a time. Afterward, when tribulation and persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they stumble. So it means the word this time did not fall by the roadside. It actually got to the destination. So the word actually got to the mind of the person or to the heart of the person. But because it didn't succeed in taking root. It didn't succeed in taking root. It was lying on the surface because there was stone on the ground. So there was no root there. And because of that, the word also was there only for a short time. And trials and tribulations, because it was lying on the surface, went and removed it, and the person loses the word, or loses the truth. Then the one that falls on the tongues, among the tongues, they are the ones who hear the word, and the cares of this word, because thorns are things that are ready to shock it. So those are the cares of this word, deceitfulness of riches, and desires for other things entering in, they shock in the word, and it becomes unfruitful. So there are three things that make people to lack understanding. 3 things that make people not to hear or to receive the truth that you are speaking to them. 3 things that fight against people's understanding. 1, Satan is the one that comes to take what is on the roadside. 2nd, shallow-mindedness. Shallow-mindedness, because it's a stony place, there is shallow-minded, it's not deep, it didn't go deep. Shallow-mindedness.